Hey guys, Jay here, and this is the SMSL PA200, and it's one of the super amps. Yeah, just like the ones that I made a video about few videos back. Yeah, those were more expensive. This one right here is just about $400 a piece, and it's just crazy. That's just crazy. This is also a GAN amplifier, which really excited me because I was like, oh my god, I've gotten so much good success with GAN amplifiers, as you guys know, like live harmony monoblocks, the AGD audience. These are some of my favorite amplifiers to run a tube preamplifier with. Now, with that being said, this is the first amplifier at this price point that doesn't sound like a Class D amplifier, doesn't have the upper mid-range glare or sterilness or stuff like that. This is a very good, dynamic sounding amplifier. It kind of reminds me of Name, because Name amplifiers have that character to be very dynamic and very transparent and airy sounding. I'll say that this is actually a little bit more airy sounding than the Name's typical sound character, which is insane to say, I know, but it's not as kind of dynamic as the Name per se. Still very dynamic, but not as dynamic. Now, the dynamics and the bass heft and extension and punch that this gives is truly extraordinary, unbelievable for the size of this. Like, you see this and you immediately think that you're gonna get wimpy bass and thin sound. Like, that's what it looks like, right? It looks very clean cut, but that's not what you get. You actually get a pretty dynamic sound that my friend Tujen has been just freaking raving about after listening to it in my space. Like, he can't stop. Now, if you're a measurement-oriented person, this measures certainly very respectably because it's a GAN amplifier. They have the measurements online as well that you can check out as well. But yeah, this is going to be a very good state-of-the-art performance, and I can't believe I'm saying that about a $419 integrated amplifier, which is also one of the reasons that this is amazing, is that you can use this as a stereo amplifier and just get one with a power rating of 85 watts per channel into 8 ohms or 160 watts into 4 ohms by using just one. And that can power a lot of different speakers out there in a small to medium sized room. And this is clearly stable down to low impedances like 2 ohms and so on. Or you can use two of these. You can get two of these to use them as monoblocks and get incredible amount of power. 250 watts into 8 ohms and 400 watts into 4 ohms. That's practically going to drive most speakers out there. And even testing it with the 1610 bookshelf speaker as I did, yeah, these can power really power hungry, speakers and speakers that need a lot of power and dynamics. Yeah, this can drive a lot of speakers out there. And for a fraction of the price, it sounds darn good. So let's talk about how it sounds. But before we talk about sound and talking about value, a message from the sponsor of today's video, Paper VPN. So just last year, I'm traveling with a laptop full of review notes, measurements, photos, videos, the embargoed stuff. And it hits me. I'm bouncing between hotel Wi-Fi, airport Wi-Fi, and showroom Wi-Fi like an absolute maniac. Meanwhile, back home, I'm obsessing over cable shielding. And that's when I started using Paper VPN. It encrypts your connection end-to-end so your data isn't just floating around every time you hop on public Wi-Fi. And once you start really thinking about it, it's kind of wild how much trust we put into random public networks out there. The nice part, it's fast, doesn't mess with uploads or streaming, and it's actually easy to use. One tap and it's on. No bloats, no pop-ups, no nonsense. And they've got multiple plans, including a fully unlimited traffic plan, and pricing starts just at €1.5. And this is huge. Unlimited devices on every plan, which means you can share it with your family and friends. No upsell, no extra hidden fees, no nothing. I also use the region switching all the time, 50 plus locations worldwide. Great for overseas audio sites, firmware pages, or when content magically doesn't exist in your country. And if you care about clean signal path in audio, then you should probably care about clean signal path online too. So use my promo code JZYAGI, that's one word, for a discount, or use the link in the description below for the discount that's already applied. Now back to the video. Now, to talk about sound, we have to put a little bit of context here. And this is using the Infineon Ganfet amplifier module and a switching power supply. And it's going to be very similar to the one that Orchard Audio is using. Maybe Orchard Audio is slightly higher quality, I don't know. But man, the sound that I'm getting is very close to the Orchard Audio sound character in that it's very dynamic, very clean, very transparent, and clarity is out the wazoo without sounding too bright, too forward, and unrefined. And that is the key here. I actually find that this amplifier here is actually more to my liking in terms of the sound tuning than even Orchard Audio. And the reason for that is despite the fact that this costs less, this amplifier somehow has better refinement in the high frequency, which means that there's less edge. It's highly transparent and clear sounding, like open up. It just kind of opens up the sound. That's how my friend Tujin described it. It just kind of opened up the sound. And even compared to my MTRS, which was what we were comparing it to, ironically, which is kind of ridiculous. Of course, the MTRS had more heft in the bottom end and overall just better in musicality in almost every way possible. But one thing was that when we connected this, the sound immediately sounded more open. It sounded like it was more clear and transparent without being like one of those wimpy sounding amplifiers that we tested way back. When we get small amplifiers like this, man, it was no good. That's why you don't see a lot in my channel. It's like we got them, they just didn't meet up to our standard. It's like the sound was too wimpy, too small, too thin in the soundstage. This sounds like a proper full-sized amplifier, which is, again, crazy to say. And comparing it to some more high-end, more, custom Ganfet module amplifiers out there, like the Live Harmony Monoblock or the AGD Audience, for example, well, I find that the HD Audience is the most neutral, right? It has very good refinement in the high frequency, but so does this. Right? Maybe not to the same standard as the HD Audience, but I certainly wouldn't call the high frequency on this amplifier unrefined unless you have really shouty horn speakers, right? If your tweeter is refined, man, this will give you that refined top end, smooth, but extended and airy, right? Doesn't sound closed off. And especially, I like this amplifier on box speakers that need a little bit of more opening up, right? And it just becomes more alive. Like Harbeth speakers come to mind immediately, just opens up that sound a little bit more, right? Or even the Vanguard Scout that I reviewed, which was a really inexpensive $300 speaker that sounded really good. And these, I said that in that video, these take it to another level with that speaker, and that's why this opens up that sound. It's more spacious sounding, clear and transparent, and really helps a speaker like that has a more warmer, richer tone to sound more balanced and more airy, which is one of the complaints people have with that speaker is that the top end sounds a little bit more closed off. With these, you retain all that warmth and texture in that speaker, but it just opens it up a little bit more, right? So again, amazing results with some speakers. Obviously, I don't think you want to plug this into a bright speaker. I think that's going to be a little too much. But yeah, with the 2 preamplifier, that also is very good. But I think we got off track here, so let's go back to the comparison. So the AGD Audience, like I said, is the most neutral out of all the GAN amplifiers without being fatiguing, bright. It's completely neutral with great bottom end, and it's the most refined out of all the GAN amplifiers I've tried. And then the Live GAN amps are more the warmer side, right? Like I compared it to Accuphase. It has that hint of warmth and body that is even a little bit more thicker and more dense than the AGD Audience, which I really like on some speakers, right? Especially those speakers that need a little bit more gut to the sound, a little bit more full bodiness and warmth in the system. Absolutely phenomenal. And they're very high quality. Both of these amplifiers, one thing is that they're both much higher quality in build quality and the componentry than this amplifier right here. But this amplifier right here is going to be the brightest of the 3. However, they're going to be very similar to the brightness level of the Orchard Audio GAN amps. So again, very similar tuning, but this is a little bit more to my liking because it's a bit more open sounding, clear, transparent, has all that like the Orchard Audio, except a little bit more refined on the top end. And this is not to slag Orchard Audio. I love their stuff. And like I said, maybe their modules are higher quality and they're bigger amplifiers as well. But in terms of what's inside and the performance and the power capability, it's really hard to say that, these are less. I feel like these are just as good, if not even better, than some Orchard Audio amplifiers that I've tried. Now, granted, Orchard Audio does make higher end amplifiers that I haven't tried, so maybe those will be better, but I've tried the monoblocks and I've tried the stereo amplifier that I reviewed, and I personally, if I had to choose between the two to put my own money towards, it's gonna be this. Mostly because it's much less expensive, but also the sound is more to my liking. Now, I'm really not trying to slag on Orchard Audio, but in terms of the overall build quality as well, I highly prefer this. I mean, you can kind of see it, right? Like metal chassis, not just square box, but really nice metal chassis with accent and really nice dial here as well. The only thing that's cheesy about this is the binding post, right? The binding post is a little, plastic, like just a normal binding post. But other than that, inside and outside, this is a really nicely built little amplifier that doesn't sound little at all. So yeah, I'm inclined to say this might be a true giant killer in the world of Ganfet super amps. And all jokes and comparisons aside, like one of the things that I really appreciate about this amplifier is that it's really hard for even the high-end amplifiers to get that balance right to where it's clearly a transparent and clear sounding amplifier, but not in a way that is forward and aggressive, right? That's the hard thing. And this amplifier does it somehow. That is the most baffling thing. And you add a tube amplifier on top of it, bam, holographic, sounds open, has that tubey mid-range, and has that, again, clear open sound that aids with the tube preamplifier matching, and it just makes for a phenomenal setup, especially on desktop, for example. Stereo, I definitely will use this for sure. No problem. Again, it's not one of those wimping sounding amplifiers made for desktop only, which again, we've tested plenty on this channel and just doesn't work for stereo. This works for both desktop and on stereo, right, in stereo setups. Like just for that, I think this is an absolute no-brainer for the asking price. Just absolute no-brainer. And you know what's really cool that you can do with these if you're in a home theater? You can use multiple of these to power multiple channels, and that would be just absolutely crazy. Because most AV receivers don't output 400 watts into 4 ohms. That's ridiculous in mono, right? But you can power your center channel with your this mono amplifier just right behind it because it's small. You can just hide it under it or onto the side, and you can just power all the channels with this enormous power, clean, transparent power, and you're gonna have this amazing home theater setup for a fraction of the price of some super, AV amplifiers out there. So multi-channel amplifiers out there. So that's one use case that I'm thinking of when I go to my new place. Maybe I'll set up a home theater and do that, and just jump in the pool and have so much fun and jacuzzi, and yeah, I'm dreaming. Now, after my evaluation, I actually have this set up in my mother's entertainment room, and that is her favorite amplifier to date. And she has actually heard quite a bit of amplifiers and speakers out there, but this is her favorite. And one of the reasons is because she likes a more transparent and clear type of sound is what I found over time. That's her preference. She likes a very clear and transparent sound, but she's quick to pick up on things being noisy and too crowded and not as well separated. So she's quick to decipher between a crowded, transparent, and bright, gritty type of sound versus a very refined, very nice, floaty, open and refined treble and clarity and transparency. And she says that, this is the best amplifier she has ever heard, which is quite a statement from my mother because she is really picky. She's even more picky than I am with virtually everything. And I think she likes the aesthetics too. Let's not pretend that's not a big part for her. Now, another thing that dawns on me is that a more apples to apple comparison would be something like the Fosse monoblocks that I'm reviewing right now, which is also very cost effective and has been one of my favorites as well. And those are more kind of warm and more kind of textured than these. But these, once again, that special thing that a lot of amplifiers, even in the ultra high-end category, struggles to do is get that balance right where it's transparent and clear and it's clearly a more brighter sound than the Fosse, yet has the refinement of the treble so that it doesn't sound bright or shouty or have a dryness to it. It has the perfect wetness and perfect kind of sense of openness without again being forward and fatiguing to listen to or any of that. So I really like the fact that this amplifier portrays a different character than the Fosse, because if they were too similar, then it will just be down to price. But they're totally different on what they provide in terms of sonic character. The SMSL, clarity, transparency, and refinement up top. With the Fosse, warmth and body and texture. So yeah, pick your poison. But personally for me, I have to say I am very happy with the SMSL personally because it provides to me what sounds like a more high-end type experience, especially when it just opens up like that. So yeah, I know these have been out for a while, but I've said it way back when I reviewed the AGD Audience and all the GON amplifiers were relatively high in price. I said it. I said one of these days we're gonna have a Chinese manufacturer that makes something like this at a reasonable price that is a Ganfet amplifier, and here we have it. We have a GON amplifier that sounds and performs like a GON amplifier should. And yeah, this is gonna be a really good Class D amplifier for those that don't want the typical Class D sound. It doesn't have any of those dryness and things that I didn't like about Class D. Yeah, and probably the first Class D that is $419 that I find to not sound totally like a Class D amplifier. Now, the only reason I still think it sounds like Class D, like I said with the Orchard Audio, is because I personally find it a little bit on the brighter side. But like I said, it's not fatiguing to listen to because it's very refined. So, a lot to love about this amplifier. Definitely recommend it for those that want more soundstage and more openness in their sound system, and especially those that want to get the best out of their DACs layering. Again, because it opens up the sound, you get really nice depth in the soundstage and width, and provides that nice setting for layering if your speakers have the capability to do so, and your DAC as well. So anyways, that is my rant for the day and my experience with these. I love the hell out of these things. These are gonna be on my desk, in my room, in my mother's room. It's gonna be everywhere. These are cheap enough that I can put them everywhere in my editing system right here. It's just a fantastic little amplifier for fraction of the price, getting really high-end performance, which is just ridiculous. But listen, if you're someone that's hypercritical and you're like, oh, it can't possibly be good for $419, Jay's just overhyping it because he's sold out by SMSL. Well, I can definitely tell you I'm not sold out by SMSL. I'm not paid by SMSL. SMSL has never sponsored my channel. In fact, I usually shit on SMSL stuff. But jokes aside, if you're truly worried about if it's going to work in your system, if you're going to like it, if you agree with my descriptions and my impressions, then buy it from a trusted vendor that has a good return policy so that you can return it if you find that what Jay said is BS. But I highly doubt it though, because this one's a really good one. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I hope this video was helpful and enjoyable. And if you like this video, click that like and subscribe. And if you have any comments and any questions you have, let me know in the comment section. I'll try to answer each one. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I hope this video was helpful and enjoyable. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Until next time.